Hi, this is Andrew, and you're listening to Knott, a podcast. This is episode 8, and this is the episode everyone's been waiting for. This episode is Duck. Also going to call this episode the last one of season 1 because summer is here and my kids will be home all the time and I can't record with any other people in the house. It's just not going to happen. Too awkward. So this will be the last episode, so we're going out on a big one. Literally, duck. So I wrote about the giant stuffed duck I won at SeaWorld probably a month or two ago, and it did pretty well as far as comparatively to what my writing usually does. I didn't do well, like in any real sense, but people seemed to like it, and a few more people than normal read it. So I'm going to read that story on this episode, and I'm going to give you a little background, a little more behind the scenes on Duck. So my oldest son's in 7th grade, and he went on a field trip to SeaWorld right before spring break, and he really liked it because he rode roller coasters, a lot of them, for probably the first time he's really done that. So he really wanted to go as a family, so we did. Got tickets and went the last day of spring break, the Sunday before they went back to school. And so it was pretty early in the day, and crowds were pretty light. And so my oldest son and my wife, Michelle, went on the roller coaster, and the other two kids either weren't tall enough or didn't want to go. So we were just kind of hanging around and waiting for them. And so across the walkway where we were standing, there was this carnival game booth, and it was a basketball one. And they had the giant stuffed animals hanging up above for the prizes. And the son that was with me is a basketball player, so he was kind of attracted to that. And both my kids know, like, when it comes to basketball, I'm like an elite level shooter. Like, I guess you would say like Steph Curry. Similar to that. Back in my day, I used to get a lot of, Mark Price comparisons, but if you want to modernize it, it would be probably Steph Curry. That would probably be the closest comparison. So anyway, they were like talking to each other. They were saying, well, we can go win the stuffed animal. It's easy. You know, Daddy will be able to make it. No problem. So, like, they were right. Obviously, I was like, yeah, I don't know if we should do it, but obviously we did it, I would win. So, and they were like, the sign said you could get like 8 shots or something if you paid. And so they had already decided, like, my son Bennett would shoot the first 4. And then, if he didn't make it, which, he probably wouldn't, but I didn't want to tell him that. But then I could shoot the last 4, and then I would make it, and we would win the giant animal. And they had decided that they were going to get the duck because that was like the most. There were some other choices, but there was like a purple koala that my daughter liked, but she thought since it was for everybody, they should do something more neutral. So they had already decided on duck, and so I was like, I don't think we should play. It's, probably won't win. Like, I knew we would win, but I had to tell him, probably won't win. So finally I was just like, okay, we'll do it just for fun. And then, so we paid the guy, and my son shot his. He blew through his first 4 shots, just like one after another. And a couple of them were decent, but, hit the rim and bounced off. And I was like, hold on. Are you going to let me shoot? And so he's like, oh, yeah. So I lined one up and shot. The guy told me, you should shoot it high because the rim, you got to get it from the top because the rim's smaller than you think. And that I didn't know if he was trying to throw me off, possibly, because he probably wanted me to lose. But I had actually watched YouTube videos about these basketball games. You were probably asking yourself, have you watched YouTube videos about how to win the basketball games at the carnival? The answer is yes, I have. Quite a few. So I knew that was kind of the strategy anyway. So I was going to shoot it high to try to get it to come down at a, steeper angle so it could go straight into the hoop, because the balls are also rubbery and, inflated more than normal basketball. So if you hit the rim at all, it just bounces off. So I shot the first one high. looked good. It just came up a little short, hit the front rim, bounced off. And the guy was like, "Yeah, it's pretty good. I think you're right on track." I was like, "I know." Um, so next one, I think I hit back rim, so I was right on line again, but it's a little hard. So I was like calibrating it. I was like, the third one, I got two left at this point, and I was, not nervous because like I felt like I was right on track to where I wanted to be. So the third one, I shot it, nice and high, just feathered it up there, and it came down and almost went straight in, but it rattled um, in the rim and then kind of popped up onto the back, like the flange, I guess you call it, and just sat there for a second, like dramatically, and then it just fell back into the hoop, and like that was it. We'd won, or I had won, I guess. Um, so I just put my arms up in the air. I think like I was trying to play it. I wasn't surprised, so I kind of had that, but I had to kind of act like I was. You know how it goes. Um, the guy was like, "Yeah, nice," and then he was like, "What's all right? Which you want? Which animal do you want?" And so I had to like turn to my kids at that point because obviously I knew we wanted duck, but I'd act like I had to consult with them. So I was like, "Yeah, which one are we going with? Are we going with duck?" And they were both like, nodding their heads like, "Yeah, duck." Um, so the guy, I was like, "We'll take the duck." And so the guy got it down, handed it to me, and this duck is, like 4 feet tall, probably, at least, maybe close to five. I don't know. Has these giant legs that are a little disconcerting. Um, but we were thrilled, obviously, and kind of fulfilled my probably number one life goal because I never really had the courage to play one of these basketball games before, even though I'd studied them closely. So it was, it's one good reason to have kids, I guess, is that they'll kind of force you to do things that you wouldn't normally do, like shoot a basketball at SeaWorld and win a giant duck. So yeah, that's about it. I don't know what else to say about duck, other than what I've already written in the story that I'm going to read. So guess I'll just say, keep chasing your dreams, whatever they might be, especially if they involve giant stuffed ducks. This week's story is called What I Wish I Knew Before I Won a Duck Plushie the Size of a 10-year-old Child at a Theme Park. Life lessons come in all shapes and sizes. The single most important thing I wish I had known before I won a giant yellow duck stuffed animal at a theme park's basketball carnival game was just how exhausting it would be to carry that thing around all day. Not physically exhausting. The big guy was actually quite light, and the early spring Florida weather was pleasant, but emotionally exhausting. The thing nobody tells you about carrying a humongous duck around a theme park is that you have to be on at all times. The pressure to perform is overwhelming. There are no respites, no reprieves, no moments of quiet contemplation. At least not for you. The duck is pretty good at carving out some me time and protecting its peace. Before I won the giant duck, I was just an average man. I blended into the scenery. Strangers rarely approached me or acknowledged my existence. I didn't realize just how magical that level of anonymity was until I won a giant duck at a theme park. Because once I did, I immediately morphed from an average man into an average man carrying a giant duck. It changed everything. Children pointed and smiled, whispering conspiratorially to each other behind their hands. Grown men gave me enthusiastic thumbs up. Toddlers raced toward me like I was a character in the theme park cast. To be fair, when a toddler made a beeline in my direction and face planted on the curb, we were walking through the Sesame Street land, the worst possible place to be seen carrying a giant yellow bird. I should have seen that calamity coming. People of all shapes and sizes talked to me. Boy, did they ever. They asked where the duck came from and how I procured it. They asked if they could touch it. They commiserated about how large and unwieldy it was. They suggested that I strap it into the passenger seat of my car so I could use the HOV lane. My cheek muscles began to ache from all the forced smiling I had to do. I wish I had known. or to train my face. This brings me to another crucial point, one I had never even considered. When you win a giant duck at a theme park, the possibility exists that you will encounter another person carrying an identical giant duck. What do you do then? Even if you think your odds of winning a giant duck at a theme park are very low, now is the time to start thinking about what you're going to do when you're standing in the shade against a wall, your duck cradled under your arm with the tail facing out, and a man walks your way holding a duck that is the identical twin of yours. If you fail to prepare, perhaps thinking something like, how hard could it be to ad-lib an adequate response in such a situation? You're setting yourself up for catastrophe. Because the man walking toward you with the identical giant duck may be a fun guy. You know the type. Longish hair arranged in an easy and confident way, strong forearms. Kind of guy casual acquaintances describe as so funny. Anyway, when the fun guy walks your way and begins bobbing the head of his duck at your duck and quacking kind of aggressively, you better have a plan. If you don't, you might panic. You might fumble your duck as you try to turn it around so it's facing its sibling, like it's a dog meeting another dog at the park and you want to let it sniff. You might think, a bit feverishly, maybe I can wave its wing, in greeting. That could be fun, appropriate. Before you're done considering all this, the man and his duck will probably have footed past and you'll realize you didn't even manage to acknowledge them in any real way. Your duck will still be staring at the wall. Why'd you even feel the need to turn it around? It's not like it's a sentient being with functional eyes. Prepare now, or suffer the consequences. Ask me how I know. On second thought, is the giant plushie a sentient being with working eyes? I didn't even think about this possibility until a woman walked by while I was sitting on a bench next to my duck, waiting while my family was riding a water ride, and said, gesturing toward the duck, "Is there someone in there?" I wasn't prepared for that question, but I remained calm in the moment and replied, "I hope not." That killed. Feel free to use that line if you want. If you win a giant duck plushie at a theme park, there's a high probability that you're going to meet an older guy in a yellow golf shirt and it's going to turn into a whole thing. You got to figure out a way to deal with this. He'll become a recurring character in your day, so you'll have to pretend to be excited about seeing him when he pops back up. I honestly don't know what advice to give here. Some things you have to figure out on your own. Your duck's feet will get dirty. It's an inevitable part of being a giant duck parent. Don't stress about it. You have to let giant ducks be giant ducks. Sit back and enjoy the ride. It will all be over before you know it, and all that will be left are the memories and the dirt stains. You will likely get a little delirious from all the attention at around the 6-hour mark of carrying the duck around the theme park. You will pass by a small lake with flamingo-shaped paddle boats and have an intense urge to rent one and take your duck for a little boat ride. Resist the urge. When a child passes by and says, "Oh, hi there, Sir Quacks-a-Lot," don't beat yourself up because you didn't come up with that sick name first. It's not worth the regret. What's done is done. If you're thinking about looking in the rearview mirror on your drive home, don't. When you get home, your Labradoodle puppy is going to be terrified. You can use this to your advantage. If he even thinks about chewing on the couch cushions again, threaten him with the duck. I would say I wish I had known that a giant duck plushie the size of a tween child does not easily assimilate into whatever interior decorating style you have going on at home. I feel like I already knew this at some innate, primordial level. I think we're born knowing some things. Babies instinctively know how to seek food by rooting, and that giant ducks are difficult to integrate into a home's decor. However, I do wish I had known that placing your giant duck in a chair outside your children's bedrooms is a bad idea. If you do decide to place your duck there, one of your children may wake up in the middle of the night, open their door, and immediately retreat to their bed where they will reportedly not sleep at all. On second thought, maybe this is actually a very good idea. If the duck keeps the children in their rooms at night and keeps the dog from chewing on the couch cushions, that's a classic one bird, two stones situation. If you happen to write a story about your middle school basketball career and publish it a few days before winning the duck, you're kind of out of luck. The thing you wrote about the highlight of your basketball career being a blind wraparound pass you threw in practice is no longer historically accurate. The miraculous duck-winning shot is now and forever will be your greatest achievement in basketball and life. Finally, if you win a giant duck at a theme park, carnival game, it will become your entire personality for at least a few days. It will be the only thing you talk about, the only thing you write about. You can contact people you haven't talked to in years just to let them know about the duck. Lean in, embrace it. Let the duck become your legacy. That concludes the duck episode of Knott, a podcast. Thanks for listening. Have a great summer, and I will catch you next time.